Hello and welcome to Recess Season 2. Thank you for joining me. I hope you enjoyed Season 1. It was an interesting season, but we're going with a different approach Season 2. So I hope you enjoy it. I hope you listen. This season is brought to you by Vidport Media. If you have a small business or a brand that's struggling with marketing, and struggling with lead generation, struggling with revenue, sales, um, and just customer engagement, reach out. The link will be in the description and everything that you need to get started. Thank you, and welcome to Recess Part 2. I got a special guest with me, my cousin, my main man. Everybody knows my cousin Eric Roberson, um, Grammy-nominated artist. He's been everywhere and been doing his thing, and nothing but an inspiration and the motivation for me and my family. So, Eric, how have you been, man?
I've been blessed, man. I appreciate you having me on here and great to just see you in general, man. Good to talk with you.
Absolutely. It's been too long, way too long. But
Indeed.
I know how it gets, man. Everybody gets to working. Next thing you know, you look up, it's 2, 3 years, and it's like, whew.
I look up and
Yeah.
you're taller than me now. I'm like, how did this happen? This is
Exactly.
No, it's
Yeah,
all good.
and I don't even know how it happens, to be honest with you. I just woke up one day and I could dunk. So
Yeah, that's how it's called time. You
there
know,
you go.
time didn't fit me that well. It got me a little tall enough, but I didn't get dunking height. I could probably dunk a tennis ball. That's about it.
Hey, that's more than most people, though.
Hey, I get it.
That's more than most people. Well, Eric, kind of tell me about you and your background and what you're doing now and what you kind of done.
Well, yeah, I grew up in New Jersey. Our family's uh, back and forth between New Jersey and North Carolina, and grew up in a pretty musical household. I have an older sister who was in all the arts, and that's kind of what got me into it. I'm a singer, songwriter, and producer and artist, so whatever. And but I got the bug right, really just following my sister, and my dad played guitar and sung as well, and my mother was into fashion, so it was just a huge artsy house, And I got a scholarship to Howard my senior year at in high school, and that kind of changed my course. I kind of got it right. I won this pageant called Mr. Black Teenage World, right? And my friends all clowned me, and they were like, "What, you was in a pageant?" You know. But it gave me a full scholarship to Howard University, and which was crazy. I wouldn't have been able to go outside of that, right? But it changed my course. It was like, well, maybe I've been doing theater, I've been doing music. Maybe I'll go to school for that. And it was a great choice, man. And the school was just phenomenal. And from there was a big introduction into the industry. I got signed to Warner Brothers my sophomore year, but it was very short lived. I left and did touring and had a song come out and that did really well, but it didn't really go as well as I thought it would go. And I went back to school and ended up graduating and then dove right back into the music pretty heavy. And it was ups and downs and stuff of that nature, but it's been real fortunate. I'm slowly approaching 30 years into the music business, written and produced songs for a ton
Congratulations.
of people, and I have my own albums as well. So the main thing is I'm able to take care of my family by doing what I
Yeah,
love, and that's the
absolutely.
end result. So I'm really happy with that.
Absolutely. And I mean, that's impressive. 30 years in any industry,
Yeah.
that's impressive in itself. Absolutely. I do have I have a question. So when you signed to Warner Bros. And you went back, what was that process kind of like? Were did you want to go back because maybe the culture, or you felt like you missing something, or what did you really go back to Howard for?
I mean,
You just wanted the degree?
I went back to Howard more because I'd ran out of options. I mean, in all honesty, so imagine imagine having a record deal and a song on the radio while still in school, right? So that was happening, right? And it's like I'm walking through the campus and it's crazy, right? It's crazy. I got a video that's playing on TV and I'm still in class, So then of course, like, well, I remember telling my parents, hey, it's getting crazy. I don't think I I don't think I can keep going to class between all this stuff going on. I got these tour days going on weekends and stuff like that. And it's almost as soon as I stepped out and started doing the touring and like left school, a lot of the stuff dried up. Warner Brothers situation dried up. The president technically left that label. So when he left, I left. And then I went to another label, and then another president took over that label and dropped everybody. So then I was two record deals in 1 year, and all of it kind of faded away. And then the songs slowed down because there's no song to follow up with it. The video stopped playing, and the money started dwindling down. It was like,
Yeah,
okay. And I remember my mother saying, "Well, you still got this scholarship. You know, you should go back there and see if you can
yeah.
get that scholarship back." And but for about a
Mother's
year, I
always
was,
gonna say that.
shopping and yeah, and traveling and trying to get things to work. And eventually, it was like, let me go back to school and just at least get that figured out because I was already in the arts. What I would tell you is it was enormously humbling because that's like I said, I was, just a year ago, I was there and things were popping, right? And they're like, oh, that's the kid that got the record deal, boom, 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 boom. And then, a year later, I'm back there and music's not playing, that song's not on the radio. And they like kind of almost like, what you doing back? So there's like these whispers that's
Yeah,
going on behind me. But what I'll tell you is that it was so humbling and it was hard to go back and really like focus and dial in. But when I did, I became a better student. I think the songwriter that I am today came from that time when I went back. I was talented beforehand, but I've really buckled down and really studied, the art of combining words and really dove into like theater, which also helped my songwriting. So I'm thankful for it. I mean, it was tough, right? And if I be completely transparent, it was probably no, it wasn't probably. It was embarrassing. It was
yeah,
embarrassing to go back, right? But I'm glad I went back. I'm glad I got my paperwork. I'm glad I got my degree. More importantly, though, I think I'm glad I got back so that I had time to process what I needed to do. I got a
yeah.
taste of what was out there. It didn't necessarily work out, and now I have a little bit of time to kind of like fine tune that. And I'm in the major where I'm in classes surrounded by music all through the day, and then I'm going to studios at nighttime. You know,
Mhm.
so by the time I graduated, I was well more advanced than most people I was competing with. I could go into a meeting or go into a studio and I could out hustle everybody because I had that time of like grinding and knowing what I needed rather than um, trying to do a whole bunch of stuff and throwing a whole bunch of stuff at the wall to see what works. I knew exactly what I needed. Okay, I need to improve on this. I need to improve on that. Okay, when I do that, it's going to work, and it did.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I kind of got a couple questions and statements on that because I feel like that's interesting because a lot of times I see now that if someone does have that path of music that they want to pursue,
Hmm.
usually it's stepping away from school and pursuing it.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? So they're looking at like, all right, well, I don't necessarily need to study this, but for you, it was the complete reverse,
yeah,
and that helped you more.
yeah,
And I don't know whether you ever asked yourself, well, if I didn't go back to school, what would it? You know what I mean? Would it have been better? Would it have been worse? I'm sure you probably asked yourself that a couple times,
yeah.
but
I think if I
you
didn't go
know,
to school, I don't know if I would have had the time. I would have been too busy trying to compete to win rather
mm,
than like practice to be prepared for the game. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
to me, going back to school was almost kind of like just really preparing, like really fine tuning myself for the game that I was about to approach. Where when I was out of school and like say when the record deals were falling apart, it was like, well, what can I do to make it pop? What can I do? Oh, okay, how can I keep it this facade because everyone thinks that I'm successful. I went and bought this big old apartment downtown. It was crazy and stuff like that. So it's like there's this image of success that now I have to
yeah,
try to upkeep, and that's a big problem too, right? It's like, all right, are you working
stressful
to be
too.
successful, or are you working to hold on to what the image of success or what other people think successful is for you? And I think that's another thing I think was really big. It gave me time to think about what success really was for me or what I really wanted out of this thing. And that's
Yeah,
and that's a big point, man. Like So then and that started then. It didn't really. It probably didn't. I didn't fine tune that till years later. But
Mm-hmm.
the bug in my ear, like even when I talk to, and I teach songwriting and teach business of songwriting, and that's like one of the things I talk to the students is like, what is success for you? Like, how do you define it? What is it? Don't go by what your parents want. Don't go by what your friends or your peers want. What do you want? Like, have you ever thought about that? And it's like it's amazing how many have never thought about it. And when you peel away all the other stuff and really get down to the basics, it's not that it's very attainable, And then the other
It's
things can
very
come because
attainable.
now you're happy doing it. I would tell you, man, I can't tell you how many people I know that are successful and not happy with what they're successful at. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that got money or can get on stages for the rest of their lives and can sing a hit song for the rest of
Mm-hmm.
their life, and they hate the song they singing, or they hate the I don't feel like doing this. Yeah, how you doing, man? Ah, man, it is what it is. I'm just getting through it. Why? You know what
And
I mean?
yeah, and that's a terrible place to
Yeah,
be
you don't
in,
have to
getting
be
through
there.
it.
Like it doesn't have to be that. But if you're not careful, you'll invest so much in a direction that you didn't want to go that by the time you've paved the way, you got to stay there, or you feel like you got to stay
Yeah.
there. And it's like I think that's the one thing for me was going back. Sure, in the English class, I might not have got anything that helped, or the psychology class, but maybe those did. What I will tell you is that it taught me that buckling down in hard times and like really staying by my word. Okay, I took this class. Let me get the best grade I can get in this class. Showed me that when I sat in a meeting and the A&R said, "Hey, we writing a song for this movie. Um, if I give you the script, can you give me something by Wednesday?" Yeah, okay. You know what I mean? And I'll
Yeah.
have it to them by Tuesday morning. Like, okay, boom. Or if they said, "I like the song, but this whole bridge, I didn't like it. Can you give me another bridge?" Okay, I'm gonna go home and work on that tonight, and I'm gonna send it to you a new bridge. And it may not be because that song's gonna land, but now that A&R goes, oh, I can trust you.
Yeah. You're
Your work ethic
reliable.
is real. You're
Mm-hmm.
reliable, and that brought a lot of work to me. A lot of work to me more. And I'll tell you, I mean, I feel like the industry is based off of a lot of people that's more reliable than talent. And I always tell my students and anyone who really listens is the most important word in the music business is completion. And it's
Mm-hmm.
probably the most important word probably in all things, like in what you're working on, what your dad's working on, what we all working on is like, if you focus on completion, it will take care of so many different
Take care
things,
of
right?
yourself.
Because
Absolutely.
because how many people are walking around with half finished ideas and half finished dreams and half whatever? And it's like, man, I got an early practice. If I got an idea, I don't leave. I really this the student right there. I don't leave it till the idea is done. And even with my staff, I got a great staff of about 7 people. And I travel with 9 band members. So I got a large amount of people I take responsible for. And if we have an idea, whether it's my idea or someone else's idea, I won't let us change the subject till the course is set on how to complete that idea.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the
Make
problem. Like
sure
one
you.
time if I go, oh, I got this dope idea for a speaker, and they go, oh, that's dope. What if we do this? No, 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 no. Let's get this speaker thing out.
Yeah.
let's
No.
let's lock that in. I don't want to
Yeah.
have a whole bunch of things floating around in the clouds. Like, no, let's lock things in. Um, because and I'll tell you, like over 30 years, I haven't been successful because everything went right. I'm successful because I completed everything I tried. And the
Yeah.
things that worked is what was successful. Things that worked. The things that didn't work, you got to eat that and keep it going. We complete
Absolutely.
enough stuff that certain things gonna work. Same thing. I mean, you hoop, right? So you're gonna shoot. Not every shot gonna go in, but you gotta complete your whole process. And if there's gonna be victory
Go in
behind it,
it.
it's gonna be off
Yeah.
what you make, right?
Exactly.
And you can't think
Exactly.
about like, oh man, I bricked that last 3-pointer. Nah, you can't think about that. I'm on
Mm-hmm.
to the next shot.
Exactly.
So it's really focused on that and really using that in every aspect of what you're doing. And I think a lot of that started, like I said, when I went back to college, man. I went back to college technically as like a musical failure at that time, but it allowed me to gather up stuff that and real talk, man, like now, man, things is great. When I go back to school and go back to homecoming, it's popping, you
Yeah.
know,
Absolutely.
So I'm glad I did go back and humbled myself to improve on what I needed to improve on.
Mm. Man, I agree with that. I agree with that because with my personal experience, what basketball taught me how to kind of get that extra, just that extra inch, that extra mile, because it makes all the
Mhm.
difference. You know what I mean? There's no, and the biggest challenge I see, and I give people is like, yeah, man, there's a million ideas in the world. Like you said, there's a million ideas. Every, I promise you, someone thought of Facebook before Facebook.
Yes.
Someone thought of the internet before the internet. Someone thought about a cell phone before. Like,
Yes.
the ideas are there, but the difference is those people set out a plan and they completed, like you said, they completed the
Yeah.
plan, and that's the whole. That's the all. It makes all the
Yeah.
difference because those are the successful and the failures, and that's the one of the dots
Yeah.
connecting, right? Because I mean, if you sit there and you go into a workout and you're going through the motions and you're jogging around, like I run this clinic Tuesdays and Thursdays with these little kids, and they're in middle school trying to make the middle school team, and I might be a little harder on them than I should be, but I'm coming from a good
It's good
place
for them
in a
though.
sense.
Yeah.
Exactly, because especially the area I grew up in, man. There's a lot of things handed to you, and the real world is not like that.
Mm.
And it's a rude awakening for everybody,
Mm.
because especially me, like I went to Xavier my freshman year. I had a tough freshman year. I played more than your average freshman, but academically I struggled.
Mm.
Um, I just struggled, and I don't like to reference it, but it's good to reference it because that's the growth I
Yeah.
seen, and it's actually funny because 4 days from now, from where we're recording this, was or 2 days from when we're recording this is my anniversary of my car accident.
Mm.
So, and it's just like crazy to sit there and reminisce about that because I was probably my personal rock bottom,
Mm.
and that was like, you know, I'm like it's only up from
Right.
there. But when I stepped away from school, I kind of stepped away from everything, and I kind of just assessed myself, and I was like, all right, like you said, a few minutes ago, you can look at the problem, but there's a problem in the problem. And the way to solve the
Yes.
problem that you want to solve is you have to solve the problems before that
Right.
problem. So you can't focus, like you said, making a hit and doing this and nah, what do I have to work on to get myself in a position to make a hit?
Exactly.
I call it getting lucky. I call it working to get
Yeah.
lucky. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? So for me, it was like, all right, well, I'm stepping away from basketball. That was one of the hardest decisions I've made in my life. A lot of people, I mean, everybody told me no. It
Mm.
wasn't a lot, like it wasn't one person that said, I think that's a good idea. It was just, Joe, you sure?
Yeah.
You sure, Joe? I mean, just give it like a semester. And I was like, man, no, because I wanted to do this coming out of high school and everything. So I'm like, you know what? No, I'm gonna make this decision for myself, and I'm gonna figure out what I gotta do and what I gotta grow
Yeah.
with to get there.
So I'll tell you.
And I mean, now I'm not. I'm blessed now. I'm everything. I'm about to move out. I just bought a car last week.
Nice.
I'm like, so it's a blessing in the same sense. But I had to take that step back. You know what I mean? Like you were talking about.
I will tell you, man, that I look back now and anybody tell you when things don't go right now for me or when there's a failure, something doesn't work, I sit up.
Mhm.
Like I get excited. Like the staff will tell you, uh, because I know I'm about to learn something. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I'm old enough
Mhm.
now, I'm 49 years old, right? And I've survived enough things to know that I can survive them, right? Oh,
Yeah.
I had this whole idea this was gonna work out. Man, that didn't work out. Or like, wow, that cost me a lot of money, right? But if you kind of
Yeah.
look back and go, okay, what would I have done differently? How could I improve this? Or what course is this telling me to do? Or what is this telling me what I shouldn't be doing or whatever? There's always something to learn out of it. And
Mhm.
see what happens a lot of times with failure is that we pity ourselves. And guess what? We should. We're human, right? So we're embarrassed or we're hurt or whatever. And we're like, oh man, I'm so unlucky. Why? But man, if you take a minute and just ask yourself what was the purpose of the failure?
Mhm.
Like why? Like what is it for? Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And more than likely, there's the answer to the next step that you're doing. And I will tell you that almost everything that I've failed at has benefited me. And
Mm.
it's something I don't know. I didn't know when I was 22 or even 30 years old, right? You know what I mean? I was
Yeah.
like, "Oh my God, that didn't work. That's crazy," you know. But most, if not all things, you know, and then mind you, there's so many serious things out here like cancer and other things out there that like that's crazy. It's I'm more talking about even recently, man. We had we run Facebook ads, right? So we have all this stuff that's going up, and we had I didn't realize I was looking at my business account that I don't look at often, and there was like a $900 subtraction out of it, and I was like, what was that? Who put $900? And I
Yeah.
look again, it's like a couple of days before that was another 900. So whoa, so I'm looking, I'm seeing like there's like 7 transactions of $900. Like boom, 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 boom. Like, did I get hacked? What is going on? Who is
Yeah,
spending this money,
exactly.
right? So as fast as I'm calling up the staff, like who's spinning this? What is this? Um, Another one pops up. I'm like, yo, shut everything down. We're getting hacked. And I think it was like Facebook or whatever. And like it was I could see on the bank statement that was saying Facebook. So we had something, it was like an old ad for some song, and its song just like elevated, and people, it's like pay per click. So people are clicking on this thing so much that it was reaching its capacity. So what happens is when it reaches capacity, it deducts $900 and it goes again. And it was like every 3 days or something like that. So we're talking like it got to like 6-7 grand, right?
Mhm.
And so of course I have staff who is handling this. I'm like, what? You know, I easily could be like, boom, who that? You know, like that. But I'm like, all right,
Yeah.
wait, first of all, what happened? And they're like, oh, I think, you know, we left this ad up. We didn't realize this ad was up, and it started running and just was accumulating. It was crazy. And it was like, okay, like, can I get my 7 grand back? No, okay. All right, so what's the best thing? So then when you stop and look at it, when I came to this new album, we had $7,000 worth of data that we wouldn't have had. If you asked me to spend that money, I wouldn't have spent it, right? But every time somebody was clicking on this, it was documenting something that we knew, like this area was working.
Yeah.
And mind you, I'm not necessarily, as I have a staff person who handles the ads and stuff. So which we actually hired on recently. And when we hired on recently, it was like, hey, look at this data and use this. And they were like, oh my God, I wouldn't have had this if y'all didn't technically make this mistake. You
Yeah.
know, now mind you, I'm not happy that I don't like 7 grand
Nobody
mistakes,
likes
but
seven.
yet at the same
Yeah.
time, it gives me a database that I wouldn't have had. And that's the kind of things that you got to look at. I mean, I don't want to make that kind of mistake daily. You can't make
Nah,
the mistake daily,
nah,
but
absolutely not.
you can. There's always a learning situation out of everything, and even if the learning out of 100% mistake, there's a 10% learning area. Man, benefit off that 10% that you can learn out of. Um, and that's the thing. So, man, when things don't work now, I sit up. I'm like, all right, well, how can we improve it? How can we? Because everything working, I don't want to say it's boring. We want everything to work, right? But that's just at that point, you just popping bottles and celebrating. There ain't nothing to
Yeah.
learn.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. You're not getting
you're not getting
better.
better. No, you're
Like
not getting better.
the success that you talked about earlier comes from that the failures. Success wouldn't mean anything if everything went your way.
Completely.
You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? So like that struggle, the bumps, the bruises, the all right, am I gonna be good? Am I gonna stay afloat? Sort of thing. That is what makes the all right, I'm gonna go buy this and buy that. That's what makes that worth
Yes.
it. Because if you just you know what I mean, there's no like you don't have value to it. There's no value to it. So no, absolutely. But that's interesting. That's an interesting
Yeah.
story. 7,000. I don't know if I want to spend that either, man. Even for
don't
that
don't don't
data.
spend it.
Man, that's funny though. But no, yeah, I know Facebook can get crazy, especially with those pay per
It
clicks,
can.
man.
It can. We stay on top of it a little better now. That's the other thing we learned from it. So we're like, okay, manage it a little bit better.
Yeah, absolutely. But I do think that that was a good lesson that, in the end, yeah, you paid 7,000, but is that 7,000 really the end of the world? You know what I mean? Because it really helped more than it hurt.
Yeah.
And yeah, like you said, nobody wants to pay 7,000, but like with every mistake and every failure, it's like, all right, you know, I learned from it, I moved forward, but obviously I want it back. I didn't want it to go that way,
Yeah. And if I ke
but I gotta do
and
what
even
I
I
gotta
keep it
do.
really 100, and it's the part where, I mean, once again, I'm 49, right? And it's like, it I remember being your age and praying for certain things to work, or, like, wondering if this was, like, really meant to happen, right? I also remember, like, you know, I remember having money and not being able to spend it, because songwriting is different. Songwriting, like, was a weird area where there was years I had a big year, but guess what? Nothing was guaranteed after that. So the next year could be a quiet year. So even if I had money, I was like, I don't know.
Yeah,
And we're talking about even like the $7,000 mistake. Not sitting there saying I'm the richest or rolling the dough, but that was like that was sliding under the radar. You know what I mean? Like, I
yeah,
it baffles me that I'm at a point in my life now where 7 grand wouldn't, like, end me. And now, once again,
and
I don't
it's a crazy thing
it's
to
think
think
about, you
about.
know what I mean? Like, it's I had this conversation with my wife not too long ago. We've been together for about 20 years, and we've been married for 14 years, right? And I had to, like, just really think about, like, I remember, like, eating dinner sometime and putting, like, a credit card at the table and hoping that it would clear, right? I remember those days. And we were just talking. I was like, I don't know when the last time uh, I've ever had to worry, about something. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like, when the pandemic started and the tours started canceling, sure, we had to think about, like, all right, let's be a little smart about stuff. But I've been blessed, man. Like, the shows are happening, the projects that we're working on, we're turning away more stuff than we're taking on, right? It's like,
mm,
and we had to get to that point. But I'm at a point now where I'm sitting up and going, hey, let's realize, like, all the work that we put in. But I also remember when it wasn't working. Remember when I didn't have it. Remember when all the things weren't lined up. So it goes back to that completion thing. It's like, and if you keep focusing on the main things that's in front of you and what's important, it grows. And then, like you said, with your height, right? We talked about a little while ago. It's like one day you look at, how did we get here? How all of a sudden one day I
yeah.
wake up and I'm
We
just,
shot up.
just shot up. And it's like, but it starts back in the time when you're putting that other work in. When things weren't all connecting all the time as much as you thought it was. But a lot of that is more about, like I said, it's just preparing the steps that are going to come. Because when it starts working, when you get in the right place to get lucky, like you said, um,
Mm,
it just starts to rock. I always tell everybody, and this is probably in all forms, but I say we're not in the music business, we're in the attention business. And I'm not in
yeah,
control of when the attention comes. I just got to be prepared for it when it does. When
when it
everyone
does,
looks over and
absolutely.
goes, when everyone looks over and goes, hey, what is
Who's
that?
that?
That's dope.
Yeah,
Are you there to capitalize
exactly.
on it? Are you there to, like, take advantage of all those things? And that's the thing where, like, I know so many people where they're like, man, but it's not working. No one's paying attention.
Mm,
And then you stop, and the very next day could have been the big boom, you know?
yeah,
So,
yeah,
you can't base yourself off of, like, what the attention is going to do. You just got to stay doing what you're doing, what you love, and keep yourself happy, keep yourself healthy. And then when it's naturally, like I said, that lucky part is real. Like, but you get lucky is being prepared at the right time, when your preparation and your timing
yeah.
matches up,
Me, yeah, absolutely,
you know?
absolutely.
Yeah.
And I do have one question for you though, because I've tried to find an answer for this because it's
Yeah.
really a tough question. But when, at what point do you feel like in life do you reach a, um, you know, this is the higher power telling me to change direction, or is this adversity? Because in my life, I've
Mm,
seen it as both, right? I've felt, all right, you know, is this yeah, this basketball stuff's getting hard, but, is this me telling me to step away, or is it me get through this hump, and on the other side of the hump, that's where it's going to be. Because it happened to
right.
me in high school, and I lived through it, ended up playing college ball and all that. Because I wanted to stop in high school too, but that was actually adversity,
Yeah.
So,
That's a great question. Well, so I think a lot of it is also going to come down where for me, I, I'm gonna be long winded. I apologize, but I'm gonna say it this way. A lot of times people come up to me and go, "Man, I'm amazed you're still doing this. Like, it's going great, but like, man, you're still doing it. Like, what makes you still do it? Like, I love it. Like, if it didn't, I mean, in all honesty, if this never popped, right? If this never worked, if I didn't have plaques on the wall or nothing of that nature, and I had a regular 9 to 5 job, I'll probably get home from work, maybe not every night, but I would have probably saved up some coins and just got some equipment and probably just still recorded just because I like to do it. I
Yeah.
like to write, right? Like, really, at the end of the day, um, even for hooping for you, you might not want to go in competitive cultural circuit, but I think they're gonna find you in the Y a couple of times a week, a couple of
Yeah.
times a month.
No, that's still
Still just
out,
hooping
you
because it's
know what I
like,
mean?
man, just like I want to get back to the part I love. Now, mind you, I know a lot of people that this business beat them down so much that it beats the love out of it.
Yeah.
Like, even once again, my students, which are going to a collegiate area to study music, sometimes they study, and by the time they graduate, they're like, man, studying ear training and lyric four and all this stuff like that, and just dissecting and beating myself up through music, they fall out of love with it.
Mm.
Or just the tour schedules that get so crazy, man. I've been in London for I've been on a Europe tour for 3 months. I ain't seen my family or my girl and nothing like that. And it's just crazy, man. I just really want to be home, right? So
Yeah.
there is a fine line, right? And for me, I think I'm one that for me, I wake up hearing ideas and I chase those ideas. And that has been able to, I enjoy that, but you do dial it back. So to answer your question, I think a lot of it comes down to clarity of purpose, right?
Mm.
If you feel like, man, this is what's going to work, what I really want to do and what I really want to fine tune and do, I don't really believe in plan Bs.
Yeah.
I'm not
Absolutely.
but at the same time, I'm gonna tell you, man, two things that happened in my life, man, and I don't really talk about it much, but I will tell you was really, really helpful. I was in the studio one day, and this is like way before I had met my wife, right? And there's probably a couple of girlfriends before that, and I'm just kind of out of pocket, right? Just like out of control, just dating mad women. And I remember asking myself, like, do you need more than one woman? I don't know where it came from. Just in the studio, sitting in a mic like this, right? I said, do you need more than one woman? And I said, no. And the next question was, why? Oh, why do I not need more than one woman? And I answered that question. Then the next question was, why? And I probably sat there for about an hour and just washed away a lot of stuff I didn't need. And I started realizing,
Mm.
oh man, that high school heartbreak, I'm still trying to get over that. Got you. Oh, I thought that looked cool to my boys, so that did that. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, maybe this ain't the right woman, whatever. And all these different things are the right way. So when I finished, my perception that was usually real wide like this had got real, real tight.
Yeah.
And it took me just kind of asking, like, what do I need? And do I have that? And where is that?
Yeah.
And what do I want? And what do others want from me? Right. So I say that. So that helped. And that was a big eye-opening moment for me, right? And then I did it musically. I did it like I was in the studio. Another probably like 3 years later or 4 years later, I was like, what do you want out of this? Mind you, it's not working at the time, right? It's like,
Mm.
I'm up and down, right? It's in the struggle.
Mm.
I want to grow old doing music. I remember the day like it was yesterday. I want to grow old doing music. What does that mean? Was the next question popped up in my head. Oh, what does that mean? And I mean, I didn't have an answer. I had to really sit there like, I mean, I'm sitting just like this mic. I'm like, what does that mean? All right, that means that even if I'm 80 years old or 90 years old, I can still get on stages or still write music and no one can tell me I can't do it. What does that mean? That means I need equipment.
Mhm.
If I got equipment, I need to be successful enough where I can keep the equipment on. It's like, so when I finished, like hour, 2 hours later, the desire for the Bentley was gone. I didn't like
Yeah.
whether I got a major record deal or no, it was like all that was gone. And it was like really fine tuned to what I really wanted out of this. And then it was like chasing that. So then what I would tell you is that peace, I just had this conversation with my dad about this. Peace, for me, the definition of peace is clarity of purpose. So
Yeah.
a person can be in war, a soldier can be in war, bullets can be flying right by their head, and they could be at peace because they know what they're fighting for, right?
Mm.
You can fire someone from your job and know that you're cutting away their payment for how they take care of their family. But I'm firing you because I know that you're a cancer to my job, to my company, and you're
Yeah.
affecting my overall purpose. And I can be at peace with that, right? So once you kind of know what you're trying to do and what you're trying to go after, the adversity, man, is just part of the steps. Is
Yeah.
it really, really taking
Absolutely.
you out? Is it really, really stopping you? And mind you, yo, going to Walmart, getting a 9 to 5 to work some part time to hold things down so that you can keep working on your purpose ain't a bad look once you understand it,
Yeah.
right? Like, cause your homie might be like, yo, you working at Walmart? But
Yeah.
you get,
It's about the vision.
fam, I just need to hold on to a little bit of stuff to cover this little part of the check and then this part, whatever, whatever. Like, and you're gonna have setbacks. You're gonna have whatever, man. Like, dude, I keep it really 100. I remember I got in tax trouble, right? Not even from like I was like trying to hide money. I was applying for taxes. I just didn't know what I was doing. I started making money, and they were like, "You had a good year. This is cool. Okay, well, your taxes this year is going to be $60,000. How you want to pay for that? $60,000? What the?
You're like,
I
oh,
don't have $60,000 on me. So then when the next year came down to do my taxes again, I was like, oh, I'm still trying to pay this 60 from last year. They're like, well, you had another big year. Your taxes this year is 60. I'm like, whoa, you know what I mean? And I just needed to kind of
yeah,
backtrack and say, okay, I need help. I need advice. I needed to talk. I talked to a couple pastors. That pastor led me to a tax advisor, and that tax advisor said, "Well, why are you doing it this way? Why don't you do it this way? And this, take that money and do this." I was like, "Okay," because no one ever told me, right? And I was like, at that point now, I'm talking about I got the car, I got the, like, I'm rocking at that point, but I still had setbacks. I still needed to learn. And mind you, that was
yeah,
15, 17 years ago. And now I'm like, now I'm giving tax advice. But I needed to get my tail busted in taxes for me to ever be able to talk to somebody, or somebody go, yo. So now another artist go, hey, remember that thing you were telling me about? So how you do your tax again? Yeah, yeah. Sit down, young man. Let me school you real quick. Because I went through it. So the
absolutely.
adversity at times is just part of your armor. It's part of your patch that you can wear on your arm. If you know this is what you meant to do, man, like if this is what you meant to do, a child is not going to stop it. A marriage ain't going to stop it. A setback's not going to stop it. What I will tell you is that my wife has only improved my business, right?
Mm.
She's only helped it. So the right situation will only improve those situations. I'll even tell you, like, we got 3 boys in this house, right? And the
Mm.
kids, that was a time I just stayed in the studio all day, all night. I can't do that no more. I got kids, right? But
Yeah,
I built this studio for the kids to be in there. And now I was just telling one of the band members this. I was like, I'm a better writer since I've had kids, because when I go in the studio now, I go in way more fine tuned because I know the kids are asleep. I got 4 hours. Let me go in, and it's like,
wow.
so I'm locked in. Where usually, man, I
Yeah,
might have been in there playing Madden for 7 hours before I even tried to start writing.
yeah,
You know what I mean? When now I walk in, so what may be looked at as adversity, what may looked at as like, oh man, it's another obstacle, might actually just make you stronger. Because I'll tell you, like,
mm.
really, not to get super religious, God's a comedian, man. He's a comedian. If when you really stop and think about it, when you sit and say, I want this,
Like,
do you really want
yeah, he gonna
it?
test you
Right?
for sure. He gonna test you.
It's like oh my God, I met my soulmate. She's the most beautiful thing in the world. And then your homie gonna call you like, yo, we going to Cancun. You wanna go?
Yeah, and you think about it, you
You know what I'm
gotta
saying?
have
It's
your
like, God,
priorities in line.
he like, yo, man, if you really want this, let's see if you really want it. Let's
Yeah,
see if you really want it. I'm gonna stick my foot out and trip you up for a little bit. How you handle that? All right, let's take the bank account out. Let's see if you really want it. Let's put adversity in front. Let's see if you really want it. And those who win and those who get through it are those who get through all that. Get through
and
it. Like I said,
those are the prosperous.
that's
Yeah,
it, man. That's
that's
it.
it.
Do you buckle down more? And at the same time, man, this is one of the old sayings me and my boys say. If you ain't going 100%, you can't complain.
Mm-mm.
And I don't know if I've ever went 100%. So guess what, man? Them
So you
complaints is
can't
out.
complain.
I can't
You
complain,
can't
man. Like,
complain.
could I have done that better? Yes.
Yes.
Could I worked on that harder? Could I put more time into it? Yes. So really put the time in, man. And I'm I know I'm giving y'all a million theories, but I'll say this, and this is recent. It's probably over the last 4 years. I stopped saying I create anything.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So mind you, there's like, if I turn the camera over here, there's plaques all up on the wall. Right. There's Grammy nomination, all kind of stuff. Right. I mean, I've
Yeah.
written hundreds of songs, got a ton of stuff out there. But guess what? I didn't write these songs. I found them. The ingredients was out there. I find things better than most other writers, right? So I can't write a song any more than a fisherman can say he created the fish. He caught it,
Yeah.
right? You may say something, or I may go through something. I say, "Oh, that's dope," and I kind of start putting a beat. But guess what? The sounds are there already. The words been there
Yeah.
before. All these notes been there before. I put them together, right?
Yeah.
So for me, everything is already done. Everything's already done. You just have to find the ingredients to put it all together. Now,
Mm-hmm.
how in tune are you to stay on that path?
Mm-hmm.
Man, so when you meet another business person, right? Even your dad, for example, who's a phenomenal business person. So when I talk to your dad, as we're trying to figure out life, I'm picking his brain because I know he has ingredients that I need for something else, and vice
Yeah.
versa. And we did that with our uncles, with your grandfather, man. We had valuable conversations that helped me with my marriage, or helped me with my parenting, or helped me with my business, because the ingredients is already there.
Mm-hmm.
You just gotta get get more practice on how to put it together.
Yeah.
So adversity is nothing but another piece of your ingredients. All
Mm-hmm.
right, what's the next part to solve? My biggest thing with my students, my biggest thing with my staff, if anything, for what I mentor, is like, I don't believe in no. I don't
That's
believe it.
huge. That's
Like
huge.
you come and tell me your problems. Like, all right, let's sit down and figure out how to fix this. And I might give you the solution. All right, well, why don't you do this? They go, well, I don't really want to do it that way.
Then
We all don't. There's plenty of stuff we don't want to do that
yeah.
way. That's the way, though.
Then it's
you
not it's
know,
not huge enough to you.
you know. We had and we've done this numerous times, but I'll tell you, going back. So there was this venue called SOBs in New York. And at this point, I was really trying to become an artist. I was, had success as a songwriter, but no one knew me as an artist. And I knew a lot of artists that were performing there. So we called this venue and say, hey, we'll see if you want to book us for one of your shows. They say, well, we don't really know you. We don't know your music. No, we'll pass. Try something else. They pass again. Eventually, it gets to the point where we go, well, how much is your venue? They say, well, such and such a venue is this. So what's the next day available? Like, do you have something a month away? They said, yeah. So we'll book the venue. We'll just rent your venue. And we brought our own event there. It was like, you're not booking us, and we'll book ourselves.
That's
And
some
the event
boss
was so
shit right there.
successful that the owner and the booking people called us and said, well, wow, that was so successful. Okay, we want to book you now. All right, well, cool. And well, book us. And what I would tell you, I say that to say that was probably about 20 plus years ago, right? Me and that owner are some of the closest friends now. He's been a mentor to me. He's been super helpful. Even through the pandemic, he's one of the people that I checked on through the years because we're friends now.
Mhm.
I've done that venue millions of times now, right? I've done that stage million times. Like, it's now family. It wouldn't have been family, and at the same time, it elevated my career. It wouldn't have been family if I allowed that no to just sit there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, no, okay, you won't book me. Well, guess what? I'll book myself, or whatever. There's other ways to figure it out, but we got to humble ourselves. We got to figure out the overall thing, and just look for the ingredients. So it's the main stuff. And even like this, okay, well, man, you had the money to be able to book the venue. Yeah, but that means, so once again, go to Walmart, get a 9 to 5 for a purpose. Like, I'm gonna stack this money up. It doesn't have to be Walmart or whatever, but it's like, use this to take care of that. But it's not a place to be like, okay, that's the answer, but I don't want to do that. But do you want it?
Yeah,
Like
and,
I
and
want
that's
it.
the
So
that's the challenge. That's the biggest challenge because I
so
mean,
I don't think there's ever a moment where, for me, where the adversity has gotten so high to where I felt I was doing the wrong thing.
mm,
I've worked really hard to get good at what I was trying to do, right? And then all the tools to try to figure it out, and it changes. It changes all different times. You got to think, I got a 9-person band, right, and a 7-person staff. The pandemic hits, and we had 3 to 4 months of shows booked, and all that stuff starts going away,
Yeah.
right? Now I got homies that are married, they got kids, so we were trying to figure out like uh, what we doing, right? And so we spent probably the first 3 months of the pandemic um trying to figure out like how to perform virtually, like do it whatever. Man, we got the thing going so crazy in like a different level of technology and something I didn't know. I mean, I calling DJs, calling engineers to try to help figure it out. That I was able to pay like we did a ton of we made more money during the pandemic than we were making on the road. I was able to pay all the band members, pay the staff, pay the everything. But it took a minute. It's like, okay, let's pivot. Let's figure out what we need to do. Once again, it's not that we can't do it. I don't believe in that. Like
Yeah.
it's going to work. If I got to stay up all night, every night, and call up every person who I feel is going to be able to advise me through this, we're going to do it. And once we do that, and that now would even be my challenge for you, man. It's like, man, the resources that you realize that I don't know if you realize you have, uh, is phenomenal. Like I would tell you, all your cousins, all your uncles, all your great uncles, man, tap in, man, because that you're at that age now that really you're no different than where me, your dad, and all our cousins were when we were coming. When I was coming down south for the family reunion, and I would sit with Uncle Joseph, your grandfather. Then I would sit with Uncle Cliff. Then I would sit with Uncle Raymond, and I was sitting, and all I was listening is all I came in with was with an ear and questions, right? And their answers were so impactful. It held me accountable
Yeah.
to like it wasn't. And I keep it real 100. It wasn't like I was walking going, hey, y'all lend me that. No, no money out, nothing, whatever. It's like this. I'm trying to do this. Well, what you trying to do with that, right? Even more, like I had this beat up Forerunner, right? Beat up, and at this point, I'm making money. But could have went and bought anything I want. Could have bought that big old disrespectful big body, but whatever I wanted, right? I'd be damned if I'm coming back to North Carolina in anything to where one of my uncles go, oh, I see what you did. Well, how you doing with this? And did you do that? And did you do that?
Make you look goofy. Make you look
Exactly.
goofy.
Let me tell you, the only reason I didn't go to that lot and pull off with something disrespectful was from them uncles that was holding me accountable. You know what I'm saying?
It's not about that.
It's
Yeah.
not about that. And they held me accountable, and I needed that. I needed that kind of like, nah, work, stack, stay focused, keep doing this, and each one of them would give me a different nugget, a different level of ingredients. And I asked for different things. I might have leaned more business wise with someone. I leaned more about peace wise with others. Like just how are you doing this and this and that? And you're at that age, man. Listen, tap in, man. Tap in. You got all the resources. And I say that because all the cousins that we were all going down together, your dad included, and we all rocking, man. Everybody's good. Everybody's doing well. And now it's our time to hold you and your cousins and your sister and everybody accountable, like in the steps of what they're trying to do. Not like it don't need to be like chin checking or challenging. It can be just simple, And I don't think that they knew how impactful they were at the time. I think they were just sharing,
Mm.
you know. But once again, the ingredients for what you want is out there, and you take what you can take and take what there's gonna be times that you might talk with me or talk with someone else and you go like, well, I didn't really need that. Okay, I'll put that in the pocket for later, you know. And then sometimes you're gonna hear something go, I'm gonna apply that right now. That's gonna help. And then when you look back when you're 44 and like, wow, man, how did I build all this?
Took them
It, it,
little
and it
ingredients.
it's all just the ingredient, put it all together, man. But that's what adversity is for, dude. And adversity happens. That might happen for me next week.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
You're
It's
gonna meet
like,
that adversity every day. Every day.
so it's just more like, yo, man, how do we buckle down and make it happen, and then be satisfied with where the cards lay, because I mean, if we go from just a natural nature thing, nature is brutal, man. If you go out and just look at it, and life is that way in some ways where I don't know why a child might have cancer
Mm.
or this that's above my pay grade, right? But I do know that if I roll my sleeves up, sometimes it's not going to work no matter how hard I work. But if I got another chance the next day to work again, my opportunities are there.
Yeah.
And I got to be satisfied with that. I'll be satisfied. And I am satisfied with that, right? So I, at 49 years old, I'm still learning, still. And I'm still an open book and trying to share what I'm learning. And, you know, my pastor said you're supposed to be teachers and students at the same time. So I'm here to learn from you just as much as you're here to learn from me. You know what I mean? We ought to be open books because how old are you now?
19.
Yeah, I like you've never been 19 before, but I ain't never been 49 before.
Yeah.
Right?
That's
And
true.
at the same time, I've been 19, but I ain't been your 19.
Yeah.
So I can't tell you but so much about being 19 because you in a whole different stratosphere, different culture than what I dealt with, you know. So we are more equal than we realize, you know, and
Absolutely.
we had to share, and we had to grow, and we had to prosper, and make things happen,
Making
and
life
that's what
with
it's all
everybody.
about. Yeah, man.
Mhm.
So use it, man. Use the ingredients that's out there, man. Tap in. You listen. You can reach out to me anytime,
That's
anytime,
right. You best
anytime.
believe. I'm
Yeah,
definitely going to. I'm definitely going to.
yeah. And that's and
I
that's
might
and it.
annoy you a little bit though. I ain't gonna
Yeah.
front.
No, no. Listen, it ain't going. You know how crazy it is. You know how many kids we got in this house. No, man. It's on and popping, man. And like I said, man, for me, you know, it's like once you strengthen like your clarity of purpose, if you call me talking about purpose, man, I'm gonna sit up, man, because that's important.
Yeah,
I don't never get tired. I don't never get tired of talking about the hustle. You know,
absolutely.
trying to solve it. If you come to me with a world mathematic equation where we're trying to solve this problem, I'm like, all right, let's roll our sleeves up and figure this out.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? That's what it's all about, man. So I'm just trying to be part of the process.
absolutely.
Damn.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, cousin Eric.
Indeed.
Um, thank you. It's been a pleasure. Been a pleasure catching up with you. Been a pleasure. Thank you for participating in my podcast. And I took a lot of nuggets. Took a
Well,
lot
that's
of nuggets
good.
for sure. Absolutely. And I hope our listeners did too. Um, we'll have everything, your show notes. We'll have everything in the show notes, your social links, and all the promotional stuff. So absolutely. But thank you guys for listening. Thank you again, cousin Eric,
Indeed.
and I will catch you guys next episode. Peace out.
Peace.